The only reason I would like to see Donald Trump try and run again is purely to see your face.
Did you call it racist? You will refuse to use the R word, I noticed.
I think absurd and abhorrent says it all, Mehdi. You just didn't know I said it, did you?
No. Donald Trump, your friend, is friends with Epstein. Donald Trump, your friend, says Somalis are low IQ. I'd like you to condemn that.
Mehdi, it's not a Nazi thing to say, no.
I think
it's not a Nazi thing to say.
It is white supremacist rhetoric
to call
black people garbage and low IQ.
The problem is...
It's amazing that you're defending
Okay, Mehdi, let's not talk at the same time. He's not a Nazi.
Citizens off the street,
he's not a Nazi.
In cold blood.
He's not a Nazi.
I was right about his fascism. You were wrong about his fascism. I was right that he would try and stay in office in 2020.
In this clip, we are going to see Mehdi Hasan absolutely call out Piers Morgan's hypocrisy when it comes to anything to do with Trump, whether it be racism, the way he's acting in regards to the Epstein files, or just Donald Trump as a whole. It's about time somebody finally calls out Piers Morgan's hypocrisy and his double standard when he's calling anyone to an account. And Mehdi Hasan is the perfect person to do it. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I'm going to hold my thoughts, my commentary and my perspective towards the end. Let's get into it.
Let's turn to the Epstein files because it seems to me this is, as I've said a few times recently, this is the biggest political and royal scandal of my lifetime and seems to be getting worse, not better, as it goes on. It reminds me a bit of Watergate with bells on. Watergate began as a very slow burner, took a couple of years to really explode. And you're seeing the same thing with the Epstein files. And you're seeing a lot of people hoisted by their own petard, by their own lies, with all the documentary evidence coming out showing how they lied. Have you ever seen anything quite like this? And what do you feel about Attorney General Pam Bondi saying, that's it? You've had all the files, even though we know there are many redactions in the ones that have been put out, some of them totally baffling. And we also know there apparently are 3 million more files that they have no intention of releasing.
Yeah, it's without a shadow of a doubt the biggest political scandal of my lifetime. I'm 46 years old. You mentioned Watergate. I mean, Watergate in the US, the Profumo affair in the UK, these look like walk in the parks compared to what we're seeing recently. And the number of powerful people globally have been caught up in this. A United Nations panel of experts this week, Piers, said this could amount to a crime against humanity. Just what we've learned from the redacted files. They talk about it being a global criminal enterprise that is systemically engaged in the trafficking of young girls and women. And yet you have Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, going in front of Congress last year, Piers, and saying there's no evidence Epstein trafficked anyone. Right? That's what he said under oath in front of the Senate. You have Pam Bondi, as you say, saying that's it, no more. Her deputy saying nothing else to be seen. We know that Donald Trump's name, thanks to Jamie Raskin, congressman who went and looked in the files unredacted, he says he saw 1 million references in his searches to Donald Trump. According to the New York Times, in the redacted files, we have 38,000 references to Donald Trump, his wife, Mar-a-Lago. So that's 96% of the mentions of Trump are missing from what you and I can see. That's a huge scandal. Richard Nixon was, organizing a burglary at the Democratic National Committee headquarters. Donald Trump is accused in these files. I want to be clear, he's a very litigious man. There's no evidence of criminality on Donald Trump's part, but there are accusations from people the FBI interviewed in the files claiming all sorts of things about Donald Trump having allegedly done sex acts with children, assaulted children, threatened children. We have no idea if they're true or not. I have no evidence to say they're true. But shouldn't they be investigated?
Well, we do. No, well, hang on. This is why you have to be careful. Well, hang on. This is where you have to be careful because we do, because in the more extreme cases like that, they've been investigated and they've been ruled out as fantasy stuff or people trying to be malicious or whatever it may be.
Not all of them, Piers.
Actually, everything in relation to criminality.
I agree with you.
Well, no. Everything in relation to Trump that involved alleged criminality has been ruled out. And the reason I'm comfortable in saying that is I interviewed David Boies yesterday. He was Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, one of the top criminal lawyers in modern American history. He's looked at everything and he says there's nothing criminal against Trump. And I do think it's important to say that. I don't think his motivation, Trump, in trying to shut this down is about himself. I think it's actually about a lot of people he knows.
Well, I agree with that. And he told Marjorie Taylor Greene, according to MTG, that you're going to hurt my friends, which in itself is a massive scandal. And I think you would agree if he is covering up for rich and powerful friends. We know how many Trump people are in the files in very awkward positions, lying about their relationships, from Elon Musk to Howard Lutnick, Mehmet Oz, multiple. That's why Thomas Massie is now calling this the Epstein administration. But just on Trump, I just want to mention a couple of things. I just brought this along just to remind myself. Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than has previously been reported, or that we were aware. That's an email from one of his own DOJ lawyers in 2020. Trump lied, Piers, when he said he never went on the plane. He went on the plane 8 times. We know, for example, that Epstein wrote in 2011, Donald Trump spent hours at my house with a victim. He referred to Trump being at his house as the dog that hasn't barked. He said in 2019, Trump knew about the girls. Now, he could be lying, Epstein. He's a horrible, convicted sex offender. But the point is, we've not had full investigations. The media has barely touched this, Piers. There's been a lot of coverage of Prince Andrew and Thiel and Elon Musk and Reid Hoffman and all sorts of people. Katie Couric. There hasn't actually been that much coverage of Donald Trump's own relationship with Epstein as much as there should have been. If this was any other president or politician, this would be a huge scandal. And I agree with you on the kind of, we haven't got evidence of criminality, but I just want to show, this is in the Epstein files, right? This is page 21. This is a 21-page FBI PowerPoint presentation. This is the page they have from last summer called Prominent Names. Donald Trump's at the top with 2 allegations in there. Now, I'm not saying those are proven allegations, but the idea that we as a media, that the American public's not even familiar with those allegations, I think we need to be talking much more about what a huge scandal this is and how many lies have been told by the people in power, not just Donald Trump. And I know Bill Clinton is going to have his day to talk about what were his relationships with Epstein as well. Piers, I'll say this, one last point. I no longer can just laugh at people who come up with conspiracy theories anymore. I can't. I used to be very dismissive of conspiracy theories.
No,
but
I agree.
unfortunately, when it
I
comes
said
to this, we have seen the lies and the cover-up.
Do you know what? I said the other day I would literally now be prepared to believe any conspiracy theory relating to the Epstein scandal, because so much of it is actually coming true. That who the hell knows, right? I mean, I just think the idea.
Although you're quick to defend your pal Donald Trump, who was close to him.
No, I'm only quick to defend him about one part of this, which is there's a lot of stuff in those files that is clearly fantastical, malicious, and was investigated and
but there's a lot of stuff redacted,
because...
Piers.
No, I agree, but there's no.
How do we know?
There's been
How
no
do we
evidence.
know the full extent of this?
Well, it's a perfectly valid point.
Agreed. But there hasn't been a full investigation. But there hasn't been a full investigation.
I agree with
you would
that.
agree with that, Piers.
And I'm with you.
Kash Patel and Pam
Mehdi,
Bondi shutting it down. Why is the director of the FBI and the Attorney General shutting it down?
Mehdi, you're preaching to the choir. I've been saying the same thing. There should
I love it when we
absolutely
agree.
be full transparency.
I love it when we agree, Piers.
I always feel a bit disconcerted when we agree. Let's talk about something else. It's interesting because let's assume a scenario here which plays out. I said on my show on Monday, we were talking about the polling for Trump and the midterms coming up pretty soon now. All right, we're nearly in March. You've got midterms in November. It is highly likely, the way things are looking, that the Republicans will get a big beating in the midterms unless something extraordinary happens, which it might. But if they do and they lose control of the House, then any president in that position pretty much becomes a lame duck president. And if that happens, it's a free-for-all for what happens next, both amongst his own party and, of course, the Democrats. The Democrats don't really have yet, to me, anyone clearly coming through in the way that Bill Clinton did or Barack Obama did, which is a massive problem for the party. One of their leading lights is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I watched this clip of her. She went down to the Munich conference, I think to sort of show her global, aspirations and how smart she was and so on. And ended up getting pretty well ridiculed for a few things. But one of which was her explanation when she was asked by a friend of mine, actually, would and should the US commit troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move? And she said this.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is of course a very long-standing policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Now, if Donald Trump had come out with that, you'd have gone, what the fuck is he talking about? That is a load of gibberish word salad nonsense. So in the cause of intellectual honesty, Mehdi Hasan, would you say that what we just heard was a load of gibberish word salad nonsense?
No, I think what we heard was not her finest hour in terms of articulating an answer on a very complicated subject. I was awkward watching that. It's obviously not great to and ah for 20 seconds. I wrote a book about public speaking. You know that I've addressed these issues and people who do public speaking. It wasn't a great moment for her, but the idea that that summed up her presence at Munich is actually what I would question the premise of your entire discussion. You just played a clip from an account. I noticed where you played it from. It's a well-known right-wing MAGA Twitter account. The right are very good, Piers, aided and abetted sometimes by your good self, in pushing narratives about Democratic politicians to brand them.
Why does it matter where it came from?
2000, they did it to... It does, because, for example, she gave fantastic answers on inequality, on Gaza, on authoritarianism. She spoke to a packed crowd in Berlin the next day. She met with the SPD. She met with the far left. No one mentions any of that. Instead, everyone in the US media is talking about this because the right wants you to talk about this. That's my first point, that this is a very manufactured narrative. And number two, it's not at all equivalent to Trump, Piers. Trump could never say even half of what she said about Taiwan. Her answer, actually, at the end, which is we shouldn't get to that point, is actually the right answer. When Trump, I checked, because I knew you were going to ask me about this, I checked before I came on air. Trump was asked about Taiwan a few months ago, and he couldn't answer the question. He said, it's a secret. I can't tell you what my position is. Well, that's much better. In fact, this week, Piers, forget rhetoric. Do you know what Trump said about Taiwan? He told reporters on Monday that he's checking with the Chinese president before he sells arms to Taiwan. That goes against a 42-year long-standing US policy on Taiwan that Ronald Reagan set up. Not me, Ronald Reagan set up. So you can go on about AOC's 20-second umming and ahhing, which wasn't great for AOC, I admit. Or we could talk about the fact that Donald Trump has a very bad policy on Taiwan that goes against US traditional national security policy. And we could talk about the fact that Donald Trump's sentences make AOC look like the most eloquent woman in history. What are you talking about? Have you heard Donald Trump rant about shark attacks, about the size of Arnold Palmer's penis, about toilet flushing? AOC's never said anything like that. Donald Trump, hold on, I haven't finished. Donald Trump went to Davos, Piers. Did you play the clip? Did you play the clip, in the interest of fairness and intellectual honesty, to quote you, did you play the clip of Donald Trump in Davos calling Greenland Iceland again and again and again? He went to Davos and embarrassed himself, calling it Iceland. And by the way, worse than calling it Iceland, he wants to invade Greenland. No Democrat has ever suggested anything as mad as going to war with Denmark as Donald Trump. So please don't come here and talk about gibberish and intellectual honesty. Your pal is the most deranged person to ever get close to any top office anywhere in the West.
Do you know what? I haven't heard such a strident piece of apologia since Comical Ali in the Iraq War, when he was trying to explain why the Americans
everything I said was true, and you can't dispute a word of it. Did you play Donald Trump's clip at Davos? Did you play on this show?
The Americans are not
on this show.
Let me answer.
Did you play a clip of your pal Donald Trump saying Greenland is Iceland? Yes or no?
Mehdi, yes, multiple times. And more than that, I interviewed the Prime Minister. Wait a minute. Yes, and more than that, I interviewed the Prime Minister of Greenland as well. Did you?
So what's that got to do with anything? We're
what's the matter with you?
You have run cover for Donald Trump. Piers, do you agree? Do you agree that Donald Trump is mad, nuts, deranged, and mentally unfit for office? Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that or not?
Why do you do this? Why don't you just...
Do you agree he's mad,
why don't you
nuts?
just say, Mehdi?
It's a simple question, Piers. People are watching. Do you agree that Donald Trump is mad, deranged,
it's not your show,
and unfit for office? Because those are your words, Piers. Those are your words.
When I come on your show,
those are your words.
When I come on your show,
you call Donald Trump deranged, mad, and nuts.
I know, and occasionally I think he is those things. And as you know, I've said it when I think he is, and when I think he deserves praise, I give him praise. My point is, though, that you're
overall you
blinkered about AOC. No, I think sometimes he's perfectly normal and lucid. Sometimes he does nutty things.
Most of the time. Come on, Piers. This is a man who rants about shark attacks, who talked about Arnold Palmer's penis at a rally, who did an impression of someone doing oral sex on a microphone at a rally. There's been no president like this. I hate George W. Bush, but I would put George Bush 100 times above Donald Trump in terms of intellectual and mental fitness for office. You cannot question any Democrat's intellectual fitness for office when you have supported this man, the most deranged man, your words, deranged, mad, nuts man, in office.
Just to be clear,
this is a man who couldn't find Taiwan on a map if his life depended on it.
Mehdi, here's the problem. I'm afraid, listen, you know I like you, I respect you very much. You've built an amazing business with Zeteo. Congratulations. But one of the reasons Donald Trump got re-elected is that you guys have got literally Trump derangement syndrome. It plays into his hands. I prefer to be more even-handed with him. I prefer to praise him when he deserves it, and I prefer to whack him when he doesn't. When you're so blindly enraged by everything, including silly jokes he says, you're so deranged about him. Actually, in the end, you managed to achieve the unthinkable. You managed to help get Trump re-elected.
Hold on.
He got re-elected with a bigger majority.
Do I get to speak? So hold on. Let's just deal with a couple of things. The reason he got re-elected, I would argue, is the media gave him a pass. People like you, I came on your show on the eve of his election, and you were telling me all sorts of things. Oh, don't call him a Nazi. Don't call him a fascist. Meanwhile, we have masked thugs
He's not
pulling
a Nazi.
American citizens off the street.
He's not a
shooting
Nazi.
them in cold blood.
He's not a Nazi.
I was right about his fascism. You were wrong about his fascism. I was right that he would try and stay in office in 2021. You were wrong about that. His people are shooting Americans
stay in office in 2021.
Everything that I said would happen in a second term.
He didn't stay in office.
Piers, and you said he was
he's not a
for
Nazi, and he's not a fascist.
Oh, my God. Piers, you, in January 2021, accused him of trying to stay in office. You said he sent an armed mob to the Capitol. You said he should be removed from office, never be president again. You changed your tune once he got back to the presidency. I get that. That's fine.
No.
I've been right about everything I've said about Trump. And as for being Trump derangement syndrome, it's the very opposite. Even I didn't think he'd be trying to start a war with Denmark. Even I didn't think he'd be shooting Americans in the street 14 months into his presidency. Even I didn't think he'd be this corrupt on this level so openly. So, in fact, he's been much worse than those of us who allegedly have TDSs. You have TDS, Piers. You have Trump denial syndrome. When I say to you, is Trump racist? You say, no, he's not racist, even though he calls Somalis low IQ, Piers. Do you agree that Somali people are low IQ? Is that not the most racist thing?
Just to explain, Mehdi, just to explain.
You're dodging me.
This is not your show.
Do you think Somalis are low IQ, Piers?
This is not your show, Mehdi.
Do you think Somalis are low IQ?
You don't get to interview me for half an hour. It's not your show.
People are worried about your silence.
When I come on your show, I haven't been silent about any of these things. You should watch my show more.
Trump calls Somalis low IQ. Is that not a Nazi thing to say? Is that okay? Not your question.
It's not a Nazi thing to say. No.
I think
it's not a Nazi thing to say.
It is white supremacist rhetoric to call black people garbage and low IQ.
The problem is,
it's amazing that you're defending.
Okay, Mehdi,
amazing.
Let's not talk at the same time. No, here's what I'm defending. When people like you on left keep calling Trump a Nazi or comparing him to Adolf Hitler, that is exactly what I'm talking about Trump derangement syndrome. It is so ridiculous, so offensive, so inaccurate. Adolf Hitler and the Nazis murdered 12 million people, including 6 million Jews in a Holocaust. There is zero comparison to be made.
Then why are they pumping out Nazi propaganda from the DHS Twitter account? Why are they using literal Nazi themes and quoting Nazi books? Do you know that they're doing that? Have you checked that out? Go check it out. I wrote about it. Why are they trying to...
Has he murdered 12 million people?
A man who says... Why is he? That's not the definition of a Nazi. That means Nick Griffin's not a Nazi because he didn't murder. You know perfectly well, you don't have to be Hitler to have Nazi views. These are Nazi views. When you put someone in front of Congress right now, they're trying to confirm someone to the State Department, Piers, who says that we need to address the Jewish question, that Jews are victims, that white people are being erased. Are those not Nazi views? Are those not far-right views? Are those not views you want to condemn? This is your friend. You say, Donald Trump is my friend. I'm asking you, Donald Trump, your friend, is friends with Epstein. Donald Trump, your friend, says Somalis are low IQ. I'd like you to condemn that.
Mehdi, I don't have to condemn it because I did condemn it when he said it. My team have just sent me the monologue the day after he said it about the Somalis. Do you want to hear what I said the next day?
Sure. Did you call him a racist?
But just as it's absurd and abhorrent to argue that every British Muslim man is a rapist, it's clearly wrong to say that every one of the 116 Thousands of Somalis in the US are thieves or low IQ. That's why many are unhappy with some of the rhetoric pouring from the White House. I did criticize.
I don't hear the word
You just
racist
didn't
there, Piers.
listen.
Do you not think it's racist to call all black...
You just...
No, but you didn't call it racist. Of course you criticised it. Did you call it racist? You will refuse to use the R word, I noticed.
I think
Why?
absurd and abhorrent says it all, Mehdi. You just didn't know I said it, did you?
No, I don't think it does. I don't think it does. I think if you call all Somalis garbage and low IQ, I think that is white supremacist. I think that is racist. If you post a picture of the Obamas as apes, I think that's racist.
Okay, you're entitled to think that. Who do you think is
And
going to
you're
be the
entitled to
Democrat
defend Trump,
nominee?
your pal.
No, Mehdi, who do you think is going to be?
I don't know. I don't do predictions.
Because
I don't do predictions anymore, Trump. In 2016, I said there wouldn't be Brexit. And Trump
who in the
win,
Democratic
so I got them
ranks
both
is
wrong.
impressing you? Right, who in the Democratic ranks is impressing you?
Yes. So Gavin Newsom impresses me because he's been very good at attacking Trump. I'm not impressed with all his policy positions, but I think he's been very strong in taking the fight to Donald Trump, which is what Democrats want from a leader. Democrats are fed up of having a spineless party. And I think the next nominee is not going to be about left or right. It's going to be about who's a fighter and who's not a fighter. I think Newsom has done very well. I think AOC is insanely popular with the Democratic Party. She's won over everyone across the Democratic political spectrum, center left, far left, everyone. I think she will be formidable. I think Ro Khanna is a progressive voice who's done so much good work on the Epstein files, has won a lot of goodwill across the political spectrum. I think there's going to be a lot of strong candidates. The question is going to be, who are they going to go up against?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. It won't be Donald Trump, I can tell you that. It might be somebody else called Trump.
Well, we don't know that for
who
sure.
might fancy a run.
We don't know that for sure.
I mean, honestly,
I'm not sure I've ruled out the idea that Donald Trump tries to stay on past 28.
Of course. But my who I think is the most impressive operator of his whole team is actually Rubio.
Yeah, I mean, Rubio rebranded himself very well. This is a man who once used to call Donald Trump a con man, mocked Donald Trump's penis.
Of course.
Now he's a loyalist going to Munich to push the MAGA, or what I call the mega message now. He went to Munich and said, let's make empire great again. Let's bring back empire. He was praising the empires of the past and saying the Europeans need to get on board with that. He then went to Hungary and endorsed Viktor Orban, a man who he used to criticize. So Rubio's done a complete 180 like J.D. Vance. We'll see both of them are kind of fake when it comes to their MAGA credentials. It'll be interesting to see if it is Rubio versus Vance, who the MAGA base believes is more of a believer, because neither of them were believers until about 2 minutes ago.
The only reason I would like to see Donald Trump try and run again is purely to see your face. No other reason.
I mean, my face would say, see, Piers, I was right again and you were wrong again.
Have you ever been wrong about anything, Mehdi?
Yeah, I was wrong when I said Donald Trump wouldn't win in 2016 and he won. I was wrong.
Mehdi, I love arguing with you.
I mean, for me personally, I know Piers was laughing a bit at that, and it was a bit of banter going back and forth between the two, but honestly, I see something so fundamentally wrong with what just took place. The fact is, Piers Morgan is an absolute hypocrite when it comes to Donald Trump. And I'm so glad to see Mehdi Hasan repeatedly call out his hypocrisy, because he has nothing to say when Donald Trump is doing all of these things wrong. It's funny, I've seen Piers Morgan call out and lose it with people when it comes to racism. But when it comes to Donald Trump's repeated racism, he doesn't have the same energy. He calls it as, oh, he says stupid things. Oh, he's made a mistake. And then he just calls it a fluff and then does absolutely nothing about it. But the fact is, it's not that at all. Donald Trump is a racist. And the fact that it is that Piers Morgan is so quick to try and run cover for Donald Trump repeatedly speaks volumes. And it's such a weird one, because the thing with Piers Morgan is this: he's wrong more times than he is right. But every now and again, he is right and he can do the right thing and call people out. But it's almost like when it comes to Donald Trump, he is so hell-bent on being in the good books of Donald Trump that he will do whatever it is that he wants. He will bend the knee to him as much as he wants, and he'll say absolutely nothing and just give a light-hearted pushback. But he'll never call it racist. He'll never say, I condemn it. And he'll never say that is grounds for Donald Trump to be removed from office. He'll never, ever do it. But I think Mehdi Hasan done a good job here with Piers Morgan, pushing back and repeatedly calling out and exposing his hypocrisy when it comes to his coverage of Donald Trump. But the one thing that I would say to Mehdi Hasan is this: I wouldn't have made it as much as a laughing joke as he did. I wouldn't have done that, because this is genuinely something that needs to be called out and exposed. Like, Piers Morgan Uncensored is literally becoming a vehicle for the right in the United States of America. I literally feel like Piers and his team have Donald Trump's administration on speed dial. And whenever something needs covering, or whenever they need a certain narrative being pushed, they can literally just get Piers Morgan to do it, because Piers Morgan's going to run cover. And what he'll do typically is this: he'll have a panel with 4 people plus himself as the host, so 5 people in total. And then he'll put out the idea that he'll have 2 people that are on the left or 2 people that are on the right, and then he is neutral. But the reality is this: 9 times out of 10, he's not neutral. He's not. He will be more leaning to the right and defending this administration. That's literally what it is that happens. But overall, Mehdi done a really good job. Like I said, I would have liked to have seen him push back a bit more. But hey ho, listen, you know, he exposed it. He repeatedly called it out, and he exposed the hypocrisy of Piers Morgan when it comes to this. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below on this exchange between Mehdi Hasan and Piers Morgan. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. While you guys are down there, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, and also just hit subscribe if you're interested in someone who lives over the pond and you want to hear my perspective, my thoughts, my commentary on things that are taking place in the United States of America, in the political world, especially if it's stuff that exposes the corruptness and the vileness of Donald Trump. I appreciate you guys. See you guys in the next clip.